All right, peasants and paupers, gather round for a tale of royal woe. You're about to experience the glamorous life of a medieval king. Spoiler alert, it's not all crowns and scepters. So, you open your eyes to the majestic sight of a dimly lit, drafty chamber that smells like a combination of wet dog and yesterday's feast. Congratulations. You've survived another night in your kingly bed, a contraption that makes modern torture devices look like memory foam mattresses. As you attempt to sit up, your back creaks like a rusty drawbridge. The royal linens, last washed during the reign of your great-grandfather, stick to you like a second, less hygienic skin. You peel yourself free, shedding a layer of epidermis in the process. Who needs exfoliation when you have medieval bedding? The stone floor greets your royal feet with all the warmth of a dragon's heart. You hop from foot to foot, doing a dance that would make your court jester weep with envy. Speaking of weeping, your eyes water as the smell from the chamber pot in the corner hits you. Nothing says, "Good morning, Your Majesty," quite like the aroma of last night's mead-fueled poor decisions. You stumble to the window, throwing open the shutters to let in some fresh air. And by fresh air, we mean a gust of wind carrying the delightful bouquet of the castle moat. It's a heady mix of stagnant water, decomposing matter, and the faint whisper of plague. Breathe deep, Your Highness. That's the smell of power. Now it's time for the most exciting part of your morning routine, getting dressed. Your royal wardrobe consists of itchy wool undergarments, a scratchy linen shirt, and enough layers to make an onion jealous. By the time your servants are done, you look less like a king and more like a particularly ornate sausage roll. But wait, there's more. It's time for the crown, that iconic symbol of your divine right to rule, and coincidentally, the world's most uncomfortable hat. As it's placed on your head, you can't help but wonder if perhaps divine right isn't all it's cracked up to be. Maybe the peasants have the right idea with their soft, non-metallic headwear. Finally, you're ready to face the day. You waddle out of your chambers, your many layers of clothing rustling like a forest in a windstorm. The guards bow as you pass, their faces a mixture of reverence and barely concealed amusement. You make a mental note to have them executed later, or at least sent to guard the most remote troll-infested bridge in the kingdom. As you enter the great hall, a hush falls over the assembled courtiers. Is it awe? Fear? Or perhaps they're just holding their breath against the royal morning breath? The world may never know. You settle onto your throne, a chair so uncomfortable it makes you wonder if perhaps it was designed by a particularly sadistic carpenter with a grudge against the monarchy. As you shift, trying to find a position that doesn't make you feel like you're sitting on a pile of rocks, your stomach growls loud enough to wake the dragons in the neighboring kingdom. Ah yes, breakfast. The most important meal of the day, they say. Though in medieval times, it's less about starting your day right and more about not dying before lunch. Your royal feast is brought forth on golden platters. The centerpiece? A loaf of bread so hard it could double as a weapon in times of war. It's artfully arranged next to a bowl of porridge that looks suspiciously like the mortar used to build the castle walls. But fear not, Your Majesty, for there's ale. Nothing says responsible leadership quite like starting your day with a tankard of fermented grain water. As you gnaw on your bread, careful not to chip a royal tooth, you can't help but wonder if perhaps you should have paid more attention to your royal baker's request for a new oven, or maybe invested in some royal dentures. The porridge is next. You eye it warily, half expecting it to eye you back. It's a substance so thick and grey it makes modern astronaut food look like a gourmet meal. You take a spoonful, chewing thoughtfully. Is that a hint of flavour you detect? No, just a small pebble that snuck in during the milling process. How delightfully rustic. To wash it all down, you reach for your ale. It's warm, of course, because refrigeration is still a few centuries away. The taste is, well, let's just say it's an acquired taste. One that you've been acquiring since you were old enough to hold a cup. It's less a beverage and more a test of endurance. As you finish your meal, you can't help but feel a sense of accomplishment. You've survived another royal breakfast without choking, breaking a tooth, or declaring war on the kitchen staff. Truly, you are a king among men. But the day has only just begun. There are peasants to tax, nobles to appease, and at least 3 different factions plotting your downfall before lunch. You stand, your joints creaking like the castle gates, and prepare to face it all. After all, heavy is the head that wears the crown, especially when that head is slightly hung over and the crown is digging into your temples like it's trying to perform a lobotomy. Sometimes it's just trying to get through breakfast without declaring a crusade against your own kitchen. Remember, the next time you complain about your morning routine, at least you're not waking up in a medieval castle. Unless you are, in which case, Your Majesty, my deepest apologies for this impertinent monologue. Please don't have me thrown in the dungeon. I hear the Wi-Fi reception is terrible down there. Next up, a peasant comes over, bowing so low that you might think he's trying to get a whiff of the floor. He dives right into a dramatic story about his neighbor's cow, which has apparently taken a liking to his prized cabbages and has been roaming around like it owns the place. You nod along, pretending that cow-related drama is the absolute height of royal issues, right? It's kind of hilarious how seriously he takes it. Your Majesty, the peasant pleads, what shall be done about this bovine menace? You stroke your beard thoughtfully, channeling all the wisdom of your ancestors, which apparently amounts to, have you considered eating the cow? The court erupts in nervous laughter, unsure if you're joking or if they're about to witness the birth of a new, oddly specific law. Next up, a pair of nobles saunter in, their noses so high in the air they might as well be sniffing for rain. They're squabbling over a piece of land that, by their description, sounds like the medieval equivalent of prime real estate. It has a stream that's only mildly poisonous and a hill that's almost definitely not cursed. You listen to their arguments, which mostly consist of increasingly creative insults about each other's lineage. Apparently, in the noble world, calling someone's great-grandfather a goat-loving turnip farmer is the height of wit. You make a mental note to use that one later. Your judgment is Solomon-like in its wisdom. Split the land in half. The nobles look horrified, as if you've suggested they share their last cup of wine with a leper. But your word is law, even when that law is clearly the result of you being tired, hungry, and wishing you were anywhere else. As the morning drags on, you find yourself longing for the days when kings could just point at people and yell off with their heads. But no, you're a civilized monarch, which means you have to listen to every mind-numbing complaint and come up with solutions that don't involve beheadings. Progress is truly a burden. A particularly bold peasant approaches, complaining about the new tax on ale. But sire, he whines, how are we to drown our sorrows if we can't afford the drink? You're tempted to suggest he try drowning in the local river instead, but that would probably just lead to more complaints about water quality. Instead, you decree that the tax shall remain, but every 10th mug of ale shall be free. The peasant looks confused, trying to do the math in his head and failing miserably. You smile, knowing you've just created a problem for the local tavern keepers to deal with. Sometimes being king means delegating the headaches. As lunchtime approaches, your stomach growls loud enough to be mistaken for a dragon attack. But there's no rest for the weary ruler. A group of merchants has arrived demanding protection for their caravans. Apparently, the local bandits have developed a taste for fine silks and exotic spices. You listen to their pleas, all the while imagining how much nicer it would be to be a bandit. Fresh air, flexible hours, and all the silk you can carry. But no, you're stuck here, on a throne that feels like it was designed by someone who hated sitting and loved lower back pain. Your solution is a stroke of genius, or possibly just a stroke. The merchants must now travel with minstrels, who will sing songs so annoying that even the most hardened bandit will think twice before attacking. The merchants look skeptical, but you assure them that there's nothing more deterring than the 15th rendition of Greensleeves, played on a slightly out-of-tune lute. As the afternoon wears on, you find yourself dealing with increasingly bizarre disputes. Two farmers are arguing over whose turnips are uglier, apparently unaware that ugliest turnip is not a coveted title. A group of monks has arrived, incensed that the local tavern is louder than their chanting. You're tempted to suggest they chant louder, but that might lead to a holy noise war that nobody wants. Your advisors are buzzing around, tossing out ideas from the ridiculous to the wild. One suggests a beauty pageant for turnips, while another thinks monks need their own tavern. Seriously, do we need to rethink advisor qualifications? It's now time for the royal feast, where your taste buds are about to be hit with flavors you never knew existed. And honestly, some you probably shouldn't even try. You're about to experience dining like a medieval monarch, which is less fine dining and more culinary Russian roulette. First up, the main course, a slab of meat so overcooked it could double as armor. It's been roasting since sunrise because apparently the royal chefs believe that if it's not charred beyond recognition, it might still be alive. You'll need the strength of Hercules and the determination of a starving wolf to tear through this leathery masterpiece. But don't worry, there's always a chance you might chip a tooth on a hidden bone. Consider it a souvenir from your royal dining experience. To complement this culinary travesty, you'll be served bread so hard it could be used as a weapon in the next crusade. It's less daily bread and more yearly rock. Legend has it that if you manage to break it, you'll be crowned the next king. But let's be honest, you're more likely to break your jaw trying. And what's a feast without some mystery meat pies? These dubious delicacies are the medieval equivalent of a modern-day food challenge show. Is it chicken? Is it pork? Is it last week's failed assassination attempt? Who knows? The fun is in the guessing, and the potential food poisoning is just part of the authentic experience. Now let's talk about table manners, or the complete lack thereof. Forget everything you know about forks, napkins, or basic hygiene. Here, you eat with your hands because nothing says royal refinement like having grease dripping down to your elbows. Hand sharing is caring. That's why everyone eats from the same dishes. It's like a communal petri dish, but with more gravy and less scientific purpose. But wait, there's entertainment. As you struggle to chew what might be beef, or possibly old boot, you'll be treated to the dulcet tones of a bard who's one bad note away from being sent to the dungeons. He's singing an epic ballad about your heroic deeds, most of which never happened. But hey, who's fact-checking in the 12th century? If music isn't your thing, fear not. There's always the court jester, ready to risk life and limb for your amusement. Watch as he juggles flaming torches while balancing on a barrel of ale. It's all fun and games until someone loses an eyebrow. Then it's hilarious. After you've stuffed yourself with questionable cuisine and dodged flying juggling pins, it's time for some royal leisure activities, because nothing aids digestion like a bit of casual violence. First on the agenda, hunting. You'll mount your noble steed, which is really just a very confused farm horse, and charge into the forest. Armed with a bow you can barely draw and arrows that fly about as straight as a drunk trying to walk a tightrope. Your target, anything that moves, deer, boars, peasants who didn't hide fast enough. It's all fair game in the royal hunt. If the thought of traipsing through the woods doesn't appeal to your delicate royal sensibilities, there's always the option of watching a tournament. Picture this. Grown men in tin cans, whacking each other with oversized toothpicks, while riding horses that are clearly questioning their life choices. It's like a medieval version of WWE, but with more actual broken bones and less dramatic storylines. As you sit on your uncomfortably hard throne, munching on what you hope is a leg of lamb, but could very well be the leg of something you'd rather not identify, you'll cheer for knights whose names you can't remember and whose faces you've never seen. It's the perfect opportunity to settle petty grudges by, accidentally, supporting the opponent of that duke who looked at you funny last week. And let's not forget the betting. Nothing says responsible monarch like gambling away a few villages on whether Sir What's-His-Name can stay on his horse for more than 5 seconds. It's not like those peasants needed homes anyway, right? As the day winds down, and you've successfully avoided any assassination attempts hidden in your food, survived the jester's flaming juggling act, and managed not to fall off your horse during the hunt, you can retire to your chambers feeling accomplished. You've truly lived like a medieval king, overfed, underbathed, and slightly concussed from that errant jousting lance. It's a wonder any of them lived long enough to make it into the history books. But then again, when you're the king, every day you don't die from food poisoning or accidental jousting is a win. As the sun dips below the horizon, your day as a royal isn't over yet. You'd think being king means kicking back with a goblet of wine and calling it a night, right? But nope. Medieval monarchs had their own version of burning the midnight oil, minus the actual oil, because that stuff's pricey. Picture this. You're the king, lounging in your fancy clothes because, let's be real, changing is for peasants. You're in your chambers, dictating letters while a poor scribe scrambles to keep up by candlelight. To the Duke of wherever, stop sending cheese. I'm lactose intolerant and that's treason. Now that's how you show off your royal status, right? But wait, there's more. Before you catch some Z's, it's time for some serious rituals. Nothing says divine right to rule like an hour on your knees in a smoky chamber, right? You're praying for guidance or just a good night's sleep. Your chaplain leads the prayers, battling the crackling fire and the occasional sneeze from all that incense floating around. Stepping into the king's bedchamber feels like a mix of sauna and chimney with that medieval vibe. The fire crackles all night, fighting off the dampness clinging to the stone walls. Smoke fills the air, creating a fog thicker than London's worst days. But hey, at least it masks some of the other not-so-great smells, right? Hygiene, huh? You, our royal hero, totally vibe with the less is more bathing style. Baths are for big events like coronations or epic jousts. Your daily routine? Just a quick wipe with a damp cloth and maybe some rose water if you're feeling fancy. Not exactly fresh, but way better than smelling like a peasant, right? Imagine the royal bed. You might picture a lavish setup, all silk and plush down, right? Well, think again, it's more like a wooden box stuffed with straw, topped with a mattress that's definitely seen better days. Sure, it's draped in rich fabrics and furs, but underneath, it's really just glorified hay. And those pillows? Oh man, they're so hard you'd swear they were crafted by the castle's stonemason. As you settle in for the night, you're definitely not alone. Medieval castles are buzzing with life. You can hear rats rustling in the walls, playing their noisy game. Fleas are hopping from the tapestry to your skin, and the castle staff is sneaking around like medieval ninjas, trying not to wake you. Just when you thought it couldn't get crazier, privacy. Yeah, that's a joke. The king's chamber is like a revolving door. Guards, servants, and random nobles are always popping in. Midnight snack? There's a servant for that. Can't sleep? Just chat with the chancellor. It's a non-stop royal hangout minus the fun. You might be thinking, this has to be the height of luxury compared to the average peasant's life. And you know what? You're right. It's like being slapped with a silk glove instead of a mace. Sure, the king isn't snoozing in a mud hut with pigs, but let's not set the bar too low here. His idea of luxury is pretty relative, kind of like calling a slightly less moldy piece of bread gourmet. As the night drags on, you find yourself tossing and turning, dodging chilly drafts while trying to find a comfy spot on that lumpy mattress. The constant clanking from the night watch, the wind howling through those arrow slits, and the occasional drunken song drifting up from the great hall below create a medieval symphony of sleeplessness. Seriously, it's enough to make you wish for the simple life of a peasant, right? At least they get to crash out from sheer exhaustion after a long day of hard work. But fear not, because you've got one advantage over your subjects. You can complain about it in the morning and actually have someone listen. As dawn breaks and the first rays of sunlight filter through the smoky haze, you rise, looking about as refreshed as a 3-day-old fish. You'll spend the day making important decisions, settling disputes, and maybe even conquering a neighboring kingdom or two, all while secretly dreaming of that good night's sleep you crave. Stepping into the shoes of our royal protagonist, you face another day of ruling with all the energy of a sloth on sedatives. You quickly realize that power and privilege come with their own set of unique challenges. Sure, you're not stressing about where your next meal will come from or if the local lord is going to hike up the taxes again. But you've got your own dilemmas to navigate, like deciding whether to invade France this year or hold off until next. And let's not forget the tricky task of gently telling your cousin that his breath smells like a dragon with indigestion. Without sparking a civil war, of course. It's a wild ride, right? Stumbling through your morning routine, you bark orders with all the charm of a bear with a toothache. You can almost feel the collective sigh of relief from the castle staff. Another night survived without being beheaded for snoring too loudly or forgetting to fluff your royal pillow just right. It's just another day in the life of a medieval monarch, where the crown feels heavy, the bed is lumpy, and the only thing more constant than the smell is the irony of it all. You're saying goodbye to our royal insomniac, who's gearing up for another day of medieval chaos with all the enthusiasm of a cat getting a bath. Here's hoping your reign is long, your enemies are few, and that your mattress finally gets the love it deserves. Long live the king, even if you secretly wish for just a bit more shut-eye.